I'll be the host for Khophi's Dev Radio Show today, and I'm happy to have with me Sam. He's here to share his experience with us related to web development stuff and all the developer stuff you can think of. So thank you so much, Sam, for joining us. Your name is Samrat. I don't really know how to pronounce the last.
Bhattacharya. It's fine. You can call me Sam.
The name sounds Indian, right?
Yes, yeah. My parents are originally from India.
Okay.
But I grew up in the U.S., hence
Okay.
the American accent.
Wow. So thanks for joining us today. I think I met up with Barnabas some time ago on this same show, and he talked about you and recommended we get in touch and discuss some developer ideas. So please tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, my parents are from India, but I grew up in the U.S. I studied engineering, actually mechanical engineering, in college. So I didn't start off as a coder. It was actually I started a PhD in robotics after graduating from college, and that's when I started getting into programming. But it wasn't like building apps or websites or anything like that. It was more, mathematical, technical stuff. Like when if you ever do a PhD or something, you have to do a lot of work with data, specialized softwares where you do statistics and stuff with that kind of data. So, but that's like a very beginning level of programming. After that, I did a program called the Peace Corps, where they send, it's like the national service, the Peace Corps, yeah.
Okay, I've heard of that before.
Yeah, so it's kind of like national service, but for the U.S., in the U.S., and they send you abroad. And they sent me to teach math and science in Mexico, of all places. Mexico is just south of the U.S. And I worked there for 2 years, teaching math and science and robotics. So a lot of the work that maybe Barnabas had mentioned, working with Arduinos and cars and things like that. I was teaching that kind of stuff at a high school in Mexico. And in my free time, I had free time after, finishing my graduate program. So in my, in the afternoons, I would go to the internet cafe in the town I was living in, and I started learning to program.
What language did you start with? That's gonna be something I like to know.
Yeah. So it was web. It was specifically the LAMP stack. So I was talking about software. I was really curious about software. So what I did was I started taking an online course on a website that doesn't really exist anymore, but it's kind of like Coursera or edX or these kinds of things where you can take a class online. And this one was a class from Harvard or something, I don't know, but it was an introductory CS class.
Okay.
And it was about web development. And like the old style of web development. And not to say that it's no longer good, like, but
still in use, but then
it's like, talk about the LAMP stack. So Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, or there's a couple different P's. You can do it in Perl. Anyway, so I just downloaded that. There's like a official software package you can download called LAMP, and I just installed it. And
so you've been doing web, and
I started with
the web. Do you have a focus? So you do the entire LAMP stack as you mentioned. Do you have any specific specialty that you currently focus on?
No, and that has to go with a bit more with what we're doing. So so I started with a couple of projects, and I was working with the whole stack. I made a blog, I made my own website and I made an app. So the blog was just my own blog, but I didn't use WordPress or anything like that. I didn't customize Joomla. I literally wrote every line of code myself. I wrote my own. Also, like I used SQL, right? But I wrote the back end and everything in PHP and all that good stuff. I think it's good. Like it forces you to figure out things like
when you get the opportunity to write your own stuff, you get to understand why things are working in the way it's currently happening. But recently the coming up of themes and everything makes people lazy. Developers, they end up picking themes here and there and just combining them. Sometimes they don't really get what is happening behind the scenes.
Exactly.
So, you do a lot of PHP.
I apologize. So this was back in like 2012, right? And I don't do PHP anymore. Then I started, after doing a couple of these projects, I started working on a new project, which is the current project I'm still working on. A project to make online learning easier in sort of developing countries where like the internet is slow and expensive. So, it was because I was trying to take online courses where I was living, and the internet was slow and expensive, and I figured out a way to get around that. So I started working on that, and then I decided to actually build a company out of what I was working on. I tried to get funding. I couldn't get funding though. So on the advice of some friends, I went back to school, and I studied in the US again at a school called MIT. And there I found a co-founder whose name is Tunde. He's still finishing his PhD at MIT right now. And we decided to both work on this project together. And now I graduated, and now I've been working in Accra for the past on the same project. Essentially, the project we're working is called .learn. It's an edtech venture.
We're going to come into details into the project, the .learn.org project, right? That's what you've been working on. So before this .learn project, you also mentioned you have experience when it comes to robotics. Can you please tell us a bit about that? We're going to come into details onto the projects pretty soon.
Yeah. Okay, so back in the day, this is before I even learned how to do websites. I was doing research with robotics, right? And so, the way I got started was, I was studying mechanical engineering in college, and I took a class on designing robots, and this was more on the mechanical side. I wanted something to do for the summer, and I had good grades, so my professor let me do research in his lab. In the summer, he paid me a small stipend, and I was doing research. And the research there was a couple different projects. The first project was on computer vision. Basically, the lab where my professor worked on robots that help with surgery. So right now, if you go to a hospital, most surgery is done completely manually. So everything from a simple like I don't know, like a cut or something, to like very, very intense surgery where they have to open up your stomach or whatever and do surgery. There's one kind of surgery where like they have to insert some electrode into your ear in order to put in like a hearing device. So to people who've lost their ability to hear, they insert, like doctors insert this little thing in your ear, and then you can hear better. Now it's a very delicate procedure because your ear is pretty delicate. So they have a robot that can steady your hand in order to do that. Research I was doing was using computer vision to analyze.
How to go about.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds like a very complex way of using computer vision to do some of these things. because any slight mistake gets something wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. So pretty high stakes.
So
You can't.
that was more like a high level form of using robotics, because the standard robotics I know around is, just pushing cars around and getting some limbs to move around. But from what you described, then it was a high level way of handling robotics.
Yeah. So I started with the equations and all of the complex math before I actually learned how to build anything useful with code.
Okay, so that gave you, with that, then you definitely had an interest when it comes to robotics, and I don't know if you did something related to artificial intelligence.
Later. So that was still in undergrad. Then when I did my PhD, that was in artificial intelligence. It was the same professors, same lab, but then the PhD work that I started was in having robots that do surgery inside the human body to how to understand where a robot is in the human body and to navigate automatically. So let me just. I think the best way is sort of just an analogy, right? The idea of robots doing surgery is that robots make less mistakes than humans if everything works correctly. So it's like, the self-driving cars you hear about in Silicon Valley. Most people are afraid, many people are afraid, oh no, robots driving, whatever. But honestly, robots are probably safer than humans. Because humans,
if all of them decide to work, in tandem and ensure everything is communicating with each other, that will improve safety on the roads and ensure less traffic and everything. That coordination is important.
Yeah, and so I think surgery is the same way. But robots, while they can do certain things well, robots don't get tired. Robots don't oversleep. They don't stay up all night partying. Robots do the job too. So that's the good part. The bad part is robots are really, really stupid at things that are really, really easy for us to do. So, like for example, and I wanna just get rid of any I'm just like, honestly, imagine you're a doctor, right? And you have to do you have to do some kind of analysis on like a patient. Just imagine I'm the doctor and this arm is the arm of the patient, right? I can instantly touch the arm of a person and know that I'm touching the arm of a person. And just because I know what an arm looks like, I know what an arm feels like, I know that the person's in front of me, and I can pretty much guess, okay, so this is the arm, right? The elbow should be somewhere, the elbow should be somewhere here, and the shoulder should be somewhere here. And this guy's face should be somewhere here. Oh, here's his face, here's his nose, here's his eyes, and that's easy for us to do, and really, 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 really hard for a doctor, for a robot to do. And so within the context of robotic surgery, it's like if a surgeon who's practiced could I don't know, like I mentioned, think of it as operating on a pig or like a butcher that makes it easier. Imagine a doctor sticking their hand inside your stomach, right, and feeling around. Like that's what they actually have to do. And they would say, okay, based on where my hand is right now, I think this is the stomach. I think this is the liver.
Is what I'm touching, or this is the organ available there, or something like that. But robots don't have that luxury of being able to. They have an idea of what a human body looks like, but that sense of touch and feel is.
Exactly. So the PhD work was essentially helping robots figure that out. It was giving.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I actually didn't really enjoy the PhD. Well, but that much. It's a lot of hard work for very little pay.
But at least that exposure is something fascinating, and at least through that process, you've learned a lot and come to appreciate some of these things. So I think that really supported your transition into becoming a web developer. So you with the programming background in that robotics aspect, you were able to transition into building web applications. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you say you're no longer using PHP and the LAMP stack, because I think I have a friend who is totally against PHP and feels it's really bad. Uh, but uh, your specialty, your experience when it comes to robotics, do you still engage in robotic stuff? Because I think that is how you are in connection with Barnabas, right?
Yeah. So I don't really do any research in robotics like that anymore. But I have done some work with computer vision and
Okay.
AI for the current
Okay.
company. But um, I view it as, it sort of opens your mind into what you can do with programming. And I
Yeah.
think there's two things that you can do with programming. The problem with the PhD was it's very high level stuff for things that most people wouldn't actually be able to use.
Yeah, I mean
Whereas,
they're just showing the possibilities, how
yeah,
extensive, how crazy you can go with whatever you have. But in
yeah,
real life, you probably won't be using everything you said, but at least you have that broad idea of what is out there and what is possible.
yeah, yeah,
So you volunteer as part of the elite team, and you're on the team as a robotics guy, helping with robotics. How is the experience so far? How long have you been part of the elite team, and how has been uh, so far the experience? How has it been?
good, good. I mean, I've been teaching for about a few years with Elite after the graduate program, and it was just doing the kind of workshops that maybe
Okay.
Barnabas might have mentioned, which
Yeah, I think
are
Yeah, I think that's started with this robotics and those related stuff when he attended one of these elite uh, uh, meetups. So
yeah,
probably
yeah,
he his interests came up when he started associating with these devices. When I met Barnabas, that was the first time I saw a Raspberry Pi. That was the first time I saw an Arduino board, and
yeah,
experiencing it for the first time. It was something fascinating. I mean, a small factor that size, being able to do lots of functionality, and how people are able to put it to good use. It was an interesting
yeah,
experience for me to get opportunity, and
yeah,
that made me understand why it is really catching up these days.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
how do you see the robotics ecosystem here in Ghana? Do you think it is growing up enough? Is Do you see the attention in that sector growing?
So, recently I haven't really spent enough time in robotics here.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, the robotics is a bit more my past than my present.
Okay. Okay.
But in terms of what people work on here in Ghana, I think I'd like to see more workshops for people getting into robotics. But then I'd also like to see more applications of robots here. Like I
Okay.
know that there've been people talking about doing actual like cool projects with robots. Like there was a professor I met at the University of Ghana who wanted to use drones to analyze
Okay.
the the water off the coast to help fishermen identify
Okay.
like where
Okay.
where to find like fish and things like that. So like that's to me like I think one thing is I'd like to see more workshops with education, but then I'd also like to see people take it one step further to actually use
Okay.
robots for
Yeah.
cool practical purposes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a really interesting past you have there. Currently, you are working on the dot land project, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what is it basically about, and what do you envision with the dot land?
Right. So Delta is an ed tech venture, and we're using custom video compression technology that we built to deliver really low bandwidth online courses across West Africa. So the idea is, Coursera, edX, Khan Academy, these sites where you can go online to study and watch videos.
Yeah.
That kind of experience, but with the data usage of WhatsApp.
Okay,
So
so you have developed your own kind of in-house compression system that you use to stream these videos, right?
yeah, yes.
And why build your own compression algorithm things when we have what do you call it? We have WebM, we have VP9 from Google,
Yeah,
WebM, which is the web standard. We have recently,
yeah,
is it H265
yeah,
or MKV? Those are all different video compressions that are really great when it comes to compression. So why the need for another compression system?
So it technically isn't. So this is for programming audience. I think compression is the word we use for the general audience that we talk to, but it's technically not actually compression. And the reason we're doing our custom thing is it's for what we're doing is still 100 times better than YouTube, which is using the latest in H.264 and all that stuff. So if you were to take I don't know, like an online video from edX or something. Even at 240p, like a low resolution on YouTube using the best of the best compression that they have, it would still be hundreds of megabytes. And what we deliver is something that's almost as good. It's not the quality of an edX video, but it's not that much worse. But it's like 1 megabyte for an hour. So like
1
100
megabyte
times.
for an hour.
Yes.
What is happening?
that's our trade secret. But happy to share the app if you guys want to download.
So if there is, and I'm yet to find, I'm confused right now because it sounds ridiculous. You are able to get an hour of video for just a megabyte. How is that possible?
Yeah.
Would I be looking at something? Because if it is this small for this huge amount of time, then something is being compromised somewhere. So what is being compromised? Oh,
It's not being compromised. It's so the one of the aspects of the technology is called video vectorization.
okay.
In the same way that like a vector image it doesn't really matter what the resolution is. The same thing
Yeah,
for us.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so
Okay. Okay. So
so
that is
that's
basically the idea behind it. You instead of the principle behind vector images, you've applied the same thing to videos.
yeah.
Okay. Do you start the video production in the vector format, or you can take any arbitrary video and transform it into a vector?
Both. The second is still in the works, but the first we have our software that we've been using with people. That's what we do is like our company money off of like the course we built because we've been working with educators to put content in this vectorized format.
So your own capturing device or capturing software will be able to take whatever video it is getting real time and process it into the vector format, right?
Yeah. But so it's like imagine you making a vector image in like Photoshop. It's really easy to turn a vector image into a regular image. It's much harder to turn a regular image into a vector image. The same thing works for us. Though we've done a bit of both, but it's more reliable to start vector first. And so we have our native format, and then we can turn it into regular MP4s later. But there's no need to.
So currently, let's say I am this guy who loves the idea of this video vector stuff. Can I visit website.com somewhere and grab this software for myself and start using it?
No, 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 no.
Where can I find it? I can't find it anywhere.
You can't find it anywhere. So it's not an open source project. I'm not sure that it would be a useful open source project right now because we're still figuring things out.
Okay.
It's it's very specific what it can do. Like vector images aren't for every kind of image. If you wanted to take a picture of your of like your mom's birthday party or something like that, like if you take a picture of her face, that's not going to play well with a vector image. Same thing for us, right? So it's very specific what we can do, but what we can do, for what we can do, it works great. So like, well, we're not lying when we say 1 megabyte per hour. It's just don't imagine video being reduced to 1 megabyte per hour. If it were, then we'd be billionaires.
Oh,
But
okay.
but for what we can do, we still can be millionaires maybe. So so hopefully,
And I'm
hopefully.
sure I don't know, but I'm sure you guys have worked some patents out or something of that sort.
So like that's why like we've been so like it's not open source. I mean it is cool and we may open source it in the future. Um, Honestly, if anyone is super interested in technology, you could always join us, join our project, because we're always looking for talented people. But besides that, it's not there's no code base that you can
Okay.
open on GitHub.
Yeah. Really, really interesting stuff. So the .learn project is primarily using this native vector video processing approach to deliver to educational videos to many people in West Africa so that they can, with the little data they have, they still can have educational content, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so far, how's the response with the .learn?
So we launched an app that doesn't use the brand name .learn. The
Okay.
app is called WASI Tutor. Students study for the WASI, the WAC exams. We're still figuring things out. There's other problems besides the technology. And I think one thing I'd like to say to programmers, first-time programmers in general, is if you ever want to do a startup, it's great that you can program. It's necessary that you can program, but it's not enough to just know how to program. You also have to know, like, you have to build something that people want. Even if you look at
Yeah.
like websites like Y Combinator or things like that, they'll always emphasize build things that people want, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
So that's what we're in the middle of doing. Is
You're
great
trying to
and it
figure
sounds
out if
fantastic.
people want.
Yeah. So like it seems like we're somewhat successful. Students definitely do have a hard time studying for the WIAC exams. You have a lot of these remedial schools
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
where like that's a good sign that things could be better if you had some kind of online or digital tool to study something a bit better than books. So I think we're on something. Some issues we're working through, like everything from usability, like when students, if you build a product, obviously you think it's it makes sense how to use it, but then when you actually show it to someone, you'd be astounded or surprised, like
Yeah.
there's like one button on the screen and the guy's still not clicking it, like what's wrong? So like those kind of problems, like those kinds of problems, like you just have to work through
I
them.
know, because sometimes as a developer, the way I put applications out there, I see it to be extremely straightforward, but another user comes up and it's total like a new concept. So
Yeah, exactly.
so how long has .learn project been around?
So we started the idea a year and a half ago, and actually this was still when I was in the U.S.
Okay.
And when I met my co-founder Tunde, and we actually decided to start working in West Africa, partly because he's from Nigeria, but we decided to start in Ghana because we already had friends in Ghana, like Barnabas and others. And for me, Ghana was, a little bit. It's sort of like if you let's just say, Lagos isn't the most friendly of cities to just move to, and like there's a bit of a learning curve. So coming to Ghana for me was a bit easier. Though we are an international team, so we have people in Boston, people in Lagos. So we're kind of distributed.
So I am thinking of also starting this startup bubble things happening around. Let's say I'm planning on setting up my own company, a startup. What are some of the things I should look out for? What should I keep in mind if I want to set up something like that? What advice can you give to people like me who wants to start something?
Oh, okay. So there's a lot of good things, right? So from a programmer's perspective, I think the great thing is that it's a lot easier for programmers to learn business than for non-programmers to learn programming. So that like you guys are already much better. So like that's like you guys are already like way ahead of the competition. But that said, it's not enough to just know how to program, right? You have to build things people want. And if I can just do like a real quick checklist of like you're interested in programming and you want to start a business, very very quick thing. So like entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, right? So you have to be. It's just like if you don't like math, you probably shouldn't be an engineer. And entrepreneurship has a lot of deal with people. So you have to be comfortable talking to people. You don't have to be like a you don't have to be like a salesman, like selling cars and stuff like that level. But like you do need to be able to understand people and talk to them. You need to work with a team. So I mean, if you've done projects with other classmates or something in college, or if you work together in a startup, that's great. That's already like just make sure that you do that. So there's that, and then two is always find a co-founder. And if you think you don't need a co-founder, then that means you really, really, really need a co-founder. So it's I think the best way I heard the best definition for the best reasoning that I heard for finding a co-founder, and almost every successful entrepreneur will tell you that you need a co-founder. If you couldn't convince one person to join your startup, then there's no way you'd be able to convince 10 people or 20 people or 30 people when it comes time. So, it doesn't mean that like if you can't convince someone to join your startup, then you're not destined to get into entrepreneurship. I'm just saying that, figure out how to do it, because it's not going to be any easier until you figure out how to get someone. So it's like, if you can't just think about it, work on it, it's just the first of many challenges in startup is finding a co-founder. And then there's some simple things, build something that people want. Importantly, make more money than you spend. This is such a simple like concept in theory that people tend to forget when they start having an idea. The rules of physics don't change when we talk about startups. Yes, people make a lot of money, but that's few and far between. But at the end of the day, like most businesses, especially here, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk were people who were incredibly bright, extremely hardworking, and phenomenally lucky, right? And in Ghana, you'd be lucky to have the first two, let alone the last one. Right? So like you can hopefully you can get the first two. Like that's once you have like those two boxes ticked, like and brilliant. If you can do good programs, like build solid apps and stuff, I would probably say that you probably tick the first two boxes, because getting that far isn't easy. Box is the lucky part. It's like winning the lottery. You have to be that good and win the lottery, right? For the lack of winning the lottery, you can still build a successful business and make money, but it's sort of the dream of it. You'll be the next Elon Musk, and settling for building a good company that helps people. Like there's plenty of startups here in Ghana that are doing more or less well. So like look at SlidePay, ExpressPay, Mikasa, all of these startups that are here in Accra. They're not SpaceX, but they're great investment, and they have offices, they have revenue, they have a lot of stuff, and most likely in 5 to 10 years they'll be bought out and they'll have exits of and so it's possible. It's just like obviously work towards you need a vision, you need a dream, but don't make stupid decisions assuming that things that probably won't come true will come true. There's a process.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sam, for joining us today. It's really been an exciting discussion so far. I wish we could go on and talk, but then we want to end our discussion here and hopefully get in touch some other time. It's really great listening to Mr. Sam share his experience from the past to the current, doing all this robotic stuff, and now getting into trying to help improve education and help people get up to speed with what they learn in terms of preparation for exams. So thank you, Sam, for joining us today. We'll definitely get in touch for more tips and more experiences and developer stories you'll have to share with us. And we'll keep an eye on .learn. I'm personally going to have a look at it. And I am past WASI level, but I'll go through the app and see if I have any feedback to offer and whatnot. So,
all right. Perfect.
Thank you very much, and we hope to get in touch some other time.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Perfect.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.